Hi everybody, this is Shujat Mubarak, and today's lecture is basically the sequel of the previous lecture, which was primarily upon the sales forecasting or demand forecasting approaches, and we discussed about we in fact took an overview of the qualitative approaches and quantitative approaches. In today's session, I am going to discuss each of them, and there are the four major approaches which I'll be discussing in this lecture, and I'll be discussing that what are all they about and what are the various ways, how do we apply those kind of approaches for the demand forecasting and the sales forecasting, and what are the various industries and what are the various avenues where those approaches can be applied. Before moving toward explaining the each approach, let me give you a brief recap that we in fact started from the first pillar of supply chain, that is plan. And once we started this course, I told you that the four major processes are the pillars of supply chain. Those are the plan, source, make, deliver, and then there's a feedback and then return. Even you can include return as a fifth part of our first fifth pillar of supply chain. So whole the supply chain cycle rotates around these five pillars, and we are discussing the first pillar of supply chain, that is plan. And within the planning, we are discussing about demand forecasting and planning. So within the demand forecasting, we had previously discussed about the various kinds of demand forecasting. We discussed about why should we do for demand forecasting, and we also discussed about the long range and short range and medium range planning. So today's session would be about the qualitative approaches. There were the various qualitative approaches, and how do we use those approaches for the demand forecasting and our sales forecasting. Let me just share with you that this S and OP, sales and operation planning term, is also used widely in the industries, whereas the demand planning is also used. So these terms are used interchangeably in the industries. Okay. If you want to take a recap, or if you want to go toward, or you want to first clarify about what the demand forecasting is, the link for the previous video is there. You can go to that link, and you can watch that video as well. Okay, so let's start with the qualitative approaches. As I told you that these are the four major approaches of qualitative forecasting. Number one is jury of executive opinion. Number two, Delphi method. Then there's a Salesforce composite method, and the last but obviously not the least, consumer survey methods for the sales or the demand forecasting. Let's start with the Delphi method. Maybe some of you would be aware of it, because this is not only taught in the supply chain management course, but some of the other course also have touch upon this particular topic, especially in the marketing or the marketing related subjects. So obviously, jury of executive opinion, it's obvious from its name that it is something linked to the executives or the top management. So yes, you're right. Basically, in the jury of executive opinion, the sales or the demand is forecasted by a jury, which comprises of the senior management of an organization, and it may include the individuals who are the experienced individual, but those individuals may not be very high up in the hierarchy, but those individuals could be included there in the jury for the demand forecasting. But mostly in the juries of executive opinion, all the executives of the company, they tend to sit together, and based on their experience, forecasting is done. Okay, so you can say that it's a group of senior management executives. Those are being assembled to get their opinion, right? Okay, now the point is that having that being experienced in the field and a lot of other things are there, but uh, why the experience of the people, when we have already very sophisticated models, and when we have already historical data, and once we have a lot of other things, so why should we go for, or why should we bank upon the experiences of the executives? What are the certain situations? So let me tell you that where or what are the various situations when we apply, or when we use, or when the when the organizations go for the jury of executive method. Number one, this kind of forecasting is used for obviously for the long range or the long term planning. For example, a company tends to expand itself. A company wants to may diversify and go into a new market and wants to see that what's the market demand in that particular new market. Are there the company is going toward the capex, capital expenditures? So in that kind of decisions which are comparatively in have a long run kind of impact, those decisions are basically done with the help of the jury of executive opinions. So yes, you can have certain examples in your mind, maybe if there's a company who is just planning to go from Pakistan to maybe some other country's market, like for example Sri Lanka, or maybe Bangladesh, or maybe some European market. So once they'll be going into that market, a company is trying to sell their products or export their products in those markets, are trying to internationalize. So before going for anything, the company has to do that. The senior members and the top management, those have to assemble together in order to see that what are the prospects of going into that international market, what to what extent they'll be able to sell, what are the various prospects, and likewise that especially what could be the demand of their product or service in which they are going to launch or position in that international market. So obviously this kind of long range planning is a strategic planning. So that's why it always remains important to have that to have the input of the jury. Okay, number one. Number two is sometimes that it happens that that the products which are called highly fashionary or cyclical fashion, those products tend to adopt, or they are the products which are called the fad. They have a recent spike in the demand and then there's a decrease. So in that kind of the highly cyclical or highly volatile demand products may not be could be estimated with the help of the conventional cycle. For example, a product which normally tends to follow a fad, suddenly there's a spike in the demand and then the demand is decreasing. So such kind of products are tried to be forecasted with the help of the jury of executive opinion, because their experience matters a lot. That experience in fact gives an input while going for forecast. Okay, then once we are going for the new business, obviously since we don't have any kind of historical data, we are going for a new business. So obviously the most important or the most pivotal aspect which could be used is the experience of the executive. So though that in that situation the executive experience is used and the forecasting is done with the help of that particular jury or the jury of executives, we call it. Okay, so in a nutshell, jury of executive opinion is used when we are going for the long range planning. Number two, once we are going to forecast highly fashionary or fad products. Number three, once a company is going to enter into a new business or going to diversify the market. And number four, when the company does not have any kind of historical data for a certain product. So that could be some of the avenues where this jury of executive could be used, but there are a lot of other ways, there are a lot of other avenues where the jury of executive opinion could be used. But let me give you here a disclaimer that once we are saying that jury of executive approach is used, it does not mean that the other approaches cannot be used. Normally, when we are taking decision in the company about the forecasting, we have to tend to bank upon the various approaches. For example, if I'll be sitting in the jury of executive opinion, if there's some data available, if there's some statistics available, definitely I'll use that statistics as well. I'll look into the past history if I do have. So it's a kind of all of these approaches complement each other. Maybe for example, we have a Salesforce survey. So while sitting in the jury, we could even use that Salesforce survey as an input while taking a decision making. So it's not the exclusively one approach would be used and the other approach cannot be used. These approaches could be used in complementation of each other. And a good planning manager, a good maybe executive, is a person who can effectively manage and effectively pair these approaches together in order to get the most accurate forecast, right? Okay, now definitely there'll be some kind of disadvantages of using jury of executive opinion. Obviously, first is it's a kind of a subjective. It's of despite having experience and all that, sometimes it remains difficult to really quantify. That aspect is there, but beside that subjectiveness of the jury of executive opinion, there's another element which also plays a very critical role. That's a culture, especially the culture like culture of our South Asia, where the people tend to follow the high power distance. And for example, if in the jury there are some of the most senior people of the organization are sitting, some of the people are there just one hierarchy below them. So there remains the chances that sometime if a senior is saying something inaccurate or maybe not practical forecast, that forecast tends to be agreed by the juniors, even though juniors know that the senior is not saying the right thing. So sometimes it can happen. So the senior member of the jury can dominate their opinion, and I've personally seen that in the high power distance cultures, once a senior is saying something and sometimes it's irrational, or to some extent it has space of improvement, but the juniors are not saying anything because they are maybe a bit afraid due to that power distance, that if we dare to disagree with our senior, it can have some negative repercussions. This could be in their mind. It is true or not, that's something separate, but being from the high power distance culture, especially from our South Asia, this could be one of the drawback of the jury of executive opinion. So that's why I always suggest to my fellows, and I always suggest to whom wherever I go for the training or wherever I'm teaching, that we have to use the jury of executive with very much care, right? So obviously this is a wonderful method, but we have to look in that aspect of this jury of executive opinion method. So moving on. Okay, maybe you'll be asking about certain examples. In fact, I was having certain examples in my slide, but being since this video is being recorded, so may not be, some of the companies may not want them to be named, so that's why I've removed those examples. But to share with you that I know a couple of fashion based companies, those who are using jury of executive opinion. There, for example, what kind of the style or the fashion, especially related to the fabrics, should be would be launched and what could be the anticipated demand. So this could be used, and this is being used in the fashion industry. This is also being used in a lot of those businesses in which the people are just coming into, or those businesses are new. So these are some of the examples. You can have a lot other. Moving on toward our second method, and very highly celebrated method, and a lot of companies use this. That's a Delphi method, and obviously it's apparent from the name that Delphi method was in fact introduced by the Delphi, and it has a kind of a process which was in fact introduced, or which was explained by the Delphi. So that's why it has been named as the Delphi method. Now, what happens in the Delphi method? The opinion is taken from the senior executives, but not in the conventional way. It's not taken in the very conventional way that they're sitting together and just they're sharing their opinions. Rather, in order to keep the confidentiality, you can say, or in order to keep the blind as to how was the opinion, as to whom the opinion gave, and who was the person those his or her opinion was diverging from the mainstream. So instead of hide the identity, you can say, and instead to overcome the challenge of jury of executive method of the dominance of the senior members, in the Delphi method, the individuals are sitting on their desks. So originally, in the original style, in the traditional style, there were the certain forms through which the opinions of those members were taken. That what would be the demand of this product, in next 3 years or next 6 months or in next 1 year, and that the paper would again was used to be collected, and then a summary was developed, and then again a new that summary was shared with the all of the participants in order to see whether they want to retain their opinion or they want to change their opinion. So but now you know that with the digitalization, this all processes has been embedded process have been embedded in the system. So while there's a simple form, at one click it's available to an individual, a person that looks into the demand of that product, that and then he gives his or her opinion. So once he's just submitting that form, it's going to summarize and giving the group opinion, that what's the opinion of the group, what's the estimate of the group, and then again it sends back to that person, and that person can review. And if he is yet not agreed upon the group opinion, and he's just on his own opinion, so okay, he can maintain, or if he or she wants to change his opinion. For example, that a form came to me, and I anticipated that product X demand could be 50 million units in next 3 months. Okay. After a while, once I got the results of all of my fellows who were involved in that forecasting method, so I got to know that the aggregate is coming 30 million units. So now mine is 50. So I there's a high standard deviation. I'm deviating from the mean. What's the reason for that? Either I should know that why I am deviating from the mean, what's the reason for that, that the rest of the people are saying it's a 30 million units, why I'm saying it's a 50 million units. Is there some specific event which the others are missing? There's some specific occasion which, or there's some specific thing or some specific event which can scoop the demand of our product and the others are missing, or I have been the overestimating the demand. So whatever the case is, if I think that if I'm overestimating, I would be definitely retreating my figures and moving on to the whatever near to the averages. Or if it's not, then I may give my own reason that this is the reason, and you might not have considered it. And after giving reasons, again a third round of the jury could be this Delphi method could be there. So this method is in fact done unless all the members of that particular forecast or that process have not reached to a consensus point. So once they are at the consensus, so then that's the estimate which is to be considered for a certain product. So that's called obviously the Delphi method. One of the major drawback of Delphi method is that it could be time consuming sometime, and sometime it happens that the people are not discussing things face to face, and the persons whose opinion is deviating for the genuine reasons may not be able to convince rest of the members in that particular team. So this could be one of the bigger disadvantage. Sometimes it can take time because the processes are being it's not that the people are sitting together and in one sitting all things are being done. It's a certain process, so it can take certain time. So it could be a timely, it can take too much time. I have certain examples I could see in the medical equipments industry, and in even in some kind of the pharmaceutical industries. They are using the Delphi method very successfully in order to forecast their demand. So this is about the Delphi method. The next one, obviously, it's very important and a bit of different than the conventional methods. It's a Salesforce composite. The demand forecast or the demand of the customer is being forecasted by the Salesforce, who Salesforce is working closely with the customer. So the point or the basic idea is that since the Salesforce is working with the customer, they are the people who are there in the field. They know rightly about the market, about the demand, about the future demand of the product. And that's why they could be the right persons in order to get the demand, or in order to forecast the demand for the next period of time. Right? To get the information is crucial. So that's the basic concept of the Salesforce composite, where the data or the demand is forecasted based upon the opinion of the sales force who is there in the field. Okay, so it means that we are relying upon the information given by the sales force of a company for forecasting demand of a product. So that's how we do. Now, what's the benefit? As I earlier told you, the benefit could be that the sales force they are very closer to the customer. They are on their hand is on the pulse of the market. They know that when market is going up and down, so they can forecast more accurately about the demand of a product for the near future. Number one. Number two, they are interacting with the customer. They know the customer's dynamics. So any kind of, you can say that event, or any kind of aspect which can affect the demand in the future, they could probably can easily forecast, as compared to those who are sitting in the head offices, who are sitting in the companies, and they are not directly there in the field. So these could be the two major advantages. But what could be the disadvantage? Right, one of the major disadvantage, what I've seen practically, what the companies do face while relying upon the Salesforce information exclusively, that is that, that a lot of time it happens that the Salesforce is tied up with the various targets. So sometime, not all the time, and maybe this not all the sales person, or not all the people of the sales force are doing this, but sometimes some of the people do what they do, that they in fact share the underestimated information. For example, if the demand could be 100 and they know that the demand could be 100 units, they will tend to share that it could be the 80 units demand, right? What could be the reason? I'm not sure, but this is what is normally shared by the most of the experienced people in the market, that maybe some of the people, they think that if they'll be telling about the 100 units, and if they'll not be able to attain the 100 units, they'll be penalized. So there'll be a question mark on their benchmark. So that's why they're telling 80 units, and if they'll achieve 100 units, they'll be getting incentive. So due to that kind of fear, there is a possibility that the sales force sometime understate the figures. The figures are, maybe the right figures are higher than what are being shared about the demand or the sales of a certain product. So that's obviously that's one of the major drawback of the sales force composite. That could be a major drawback. So what normally is done, that you get the data from the sales force, you also get the data of the same product forecast from your quantitative forecasting approaches, you get the data from maybe some other ways, and then we merge together, we compare and contrast that, okay, with the help of sales forecast, we see that the demand and anticipated demand is 80 units. If we project the data, we are getting the demand of 85 units. If we go for maybe the expert survey, the jury of executive, the demand may be 95 units. So where to go? What should be the right figure? So then maybe the 85 or 90 or whatever. So that could be, that it can be the right approach to compare and contrast various techniques, and then to come up with the right figure. So it's a very normal in the company. Okay, moving on toward the last but not obviously least approach, and a bit expensive again. The information is taken from those who are going to consume or use those products, or at least to whom the product is being delivered. So it's called the consumers survey, right? We could have often, or at least once in our life, we could have gone through some people who are coming to us giving some form that, okay, you want to use this product, you want to buy this product or not, or what should be the price and all that. So that kind of surveys are done from the customers, and now you can see that while using that maybe internet, we could see some certain form or certain thing that's coming to us asking for the certain information. related to us and related to our product usage. So that surveys are again one of the kind which is used for anticipating the consumer's demand. So the consumer surveys are primarily used in order to know that what could be the demand of a product in a certain market. And normally the consumer surveys are used when a new product is introduced in the market, because it's a very expensive method to get the data. Is not to get the data information from the consumer, from the customer, is not only expensive, but it's also time taking process, because there could be a proper team, survey team, which will be going into the field, into the market, will be getting the data collected, or there'll be a team which is being deployed on the internet, on the computer, and they are constantly taking follow up from the customers to get their feedback. So obviously it's expensive, it's time taking. So that's why mostly it's used for while a company is going to launch a new product. But comparatively, as if you see that, if you compare it with the Salesforce composite, or if you compare it with the jury of executive and Delphi method, consumer survey method is has its own application, it has its own certain reason to be applied. So that's why I'm saying that there is a possibility that a company is applying consumer survey, company is getting the forecast with the help of the consumer survey, but at the same time that forecast is being supplemented by the experience of their experts or by the jury, and as well as they are getting something from the sales force. So this is a, maybe the company is using the various methods in order to forecast the one product. But anyway, coming back to the consumer survey, these the surveys are directly these are administered to the consumers, and on the feedback of the consumers, the demands information is taken, and that's summarized and presented to the management. Okay, so it's you can see that it's the opinion of the people or the perception of the people. Beside that, it could be a cost expensive, it could be time taking. One important psychological aspect of the consumer survey could be that we are getting opinion of a consumer at a certain point in time, and if the consumer is in hurry, if the consumer is in the not in the right state of mind, means that he or she is angry, he or she is that have been offended with somebody, so there could be an information bias while giving the information, and that bias can create a problem for the company. So that it remains always a problem, but obviously there are certain methods which can help in order to trace that kind of biases and could be overcome. Putting together, we have a four major qualitative approaches, starting from the jury of executive opinion, which majorly relies upon the experiences of the top management. Then it's a Delphi method. Again, Delphi method also banks, it relies upon the experiences of the management, but sometimes middle management is also there. And then it comes to the Salesforce composite method, in which the demand information is taken based on the information from the Salesforce. And then the last but not obviously the least is the consumer survey method, when the demand is forecasted based upon the feedbacks and based upon the surveys taken from the customer. So these are the four major approaches, qualitative approaches, which are used for the demand forecasting, right? So beside it, there are a lot of other approaches which could be used. So beside these four approaches, as I told you, there could be other approaches, and then there's a complete set of the quantitative approaches, which we'll be discussing in the next lecture, that how we can do those quantitative approaches. Obviously it will be a kind of a glimpse of those quantitative approaches, because most of those quantitative approaches have been built in or have been made part of the ERP, enterprise resource planning system of the companies, and it requires extensive efforts and maybe another a set of lectures, a series of lectures, in order to explain the various approaches. But definitely in the next lecture you can see that you can watch about those quantitative approaches. So from about the qualitative approaches, this was what I have shared with you. Thank you very much. I'll be waiting for your feedback.